We're going to go ahead and review and look at finding slope. And our essential question here is, can I find slope given two ordered pairs? So let's review real quick what slope is. We know that the slope is the steepness of a line, how steep something is. Our real life examples was like a hill, a set of stairs, a roof, like the different pitch in a roof, the steepness of it. And so we're going to look at 4 examples today. And what I want to remind you of is that slope is rise divided by run. And I have that written here for you. Rise, and if you think of your coordinate graph, your rise is your up and down, so it's your y values. And then your run, you're dividing by your run, which is your x values. So let's go ahead and jump into this first example. For every single problem, will you please make sure that you label what each of these numbers represent? So my first ordered pair, 6, -12, that is x is the 6, -12 is the y. When we write an ordered pair, it's always x comma y. And 15 is my x, and -3 is my y. So we're going to go ahead and get this one set up. We're going to take our y values, because remember it's y minus y on the top. So let's look at our y values. I have a -12, take away, and let's go ahead and put in parentheses a -3. It's still subtract, even though we have the negative symbols. So we subtract our y's on the top, and on the bottom in our denominator, we're going to take away or subtract our x values. So 6, take away 15. So one thing I want to point out is that because I wrote my -12 first for my y value, I had to write the 6 first right below it for the x value. And again, we are subtracting. So -12 minus a -3 is going to be -9. And 6 take away 15 is going to be a -9. And that would be the slope. It's a little deceiving though, because a negative divided by a negative, let me write all the different answers for this. -9 divided by -9 is our slope. But that's the exact same thing as 9 divided by 9. Because a negative divided by a negative becomes a positive, which is the exact same thing. These are all equal as one whole. So if we were to simplify this, we get a +1. This is a +1 as a slope. Let's look at our next example. We're going through the same steps. In my very first example, this one ended up being a positive slope because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I gave you 4 examples, and the whole goal of this was, can you find slope given 2 points? You're going to go through these same steps when you practice this coming up later this week. That's it. Example 2. We want to label our x and our y, our x and our y, and this is work that I should see on your paper. Whatever I write down, you need to write down. Remember, it's y minus y in the numerator. So let's go ahead. We'll start with 2 minus 5. And in the bottom of our fraction, we're going to have x minus x. So because I started with my 2 for the y, I have to start with that 12. So 12, and I'm going to take away a -7. And we just need to do the math. So if I have a 2 and I take away 5, I'm at a -3. And if I have 12, take away a -7, That actually means, remember, we could change subtraction to addition. So this becomes add. The opposite of a -7 is a +7. So this is really just 12 plus 7, which is 19. And it's okay to leave fractions or slopes, I'm sorry, my answers here as a fraction. I prefer for you to leave it as a fraction unless you get a nice, pretty number. So we're just going to leave it at that. This is an example of a negative slope. This is an example of a negative slope. Let's go ahead and let's look at two more. Oops, I went too fast there. This one was a negative slope because our answer was negative. We had a positive slope. We had a negative slope. Let's see what happens with this one. Again, we're going to label it xy, xy, and we are finding the slope of a line because we are given two ordered pairs. So here, let's go ahead. We know it's y minus y. So I have a -18, take away a -18. That's in the numerator. My x's go in the denominator. My x's are 12, take away a -15. And again, be careful. Use your calculator with your adding and subtracting so we don't make some silly mistakes. And if I look at this, -18 minus a -18, that's just 0. And 12 minus a -15, well, that's 27. But try it on your calculator. If you have a 0 in the top of your fraction, this is a 0 slope. 0 divided by 27 is just 0. So this is a 0 slope. And what I like to think about is like walking the halls of Grant, just walking flat. Okay, the hallway would be a 0 slope. It's flat. So we talked about a positive slope. We got one that was a negative slope. This one's a 0 slope, so it's flat. The next one is probably the trickiest, but let's go ahead and look at it. 0 slope, where it's just the number 0. Again, the process is the same. Please label them xy, xy. We are going to find our slope, given these 2 points, we're going to have our y's in the numerator. And let's go ahead and look at those y's. It's -13, take away 8. And if we look at the denominator, we have x minus x. And that's 17 minus 17. So -13 take away 8 is going to be -21. 17 minus 17 is 0. Now try this one on your calculator, because I'm going to tell you right now, it is not a 0 slope. We call this one a no slope. Or also we could call it undefined. What does that mean? Well, do that on your calculator. Take -21 divided by 0. What does your calculator tell you? It says error. Dividing by 0, you get an error. We can't divide by 0. We get an error message. So we don't want to write 0 here because it's not 0. It is no slope. It is undefined. It is an error message on our calculator. So those are the 4 types of slope. No slope or undefined.